Hey, what is going on, you guys? JPB Productions here, and today I'm going to be reviewing episode 7 of Survivor 43. So overall, this was a pretty good episode. This episode was the tribal council that had the most people vulnerable throughout the entire season, and the reason why I'm saying that and noting that is that after the challenge, it was very, very hectic. I mean, everybody was talking to everybody. Everybody was genuinely playing very, very hard. And that was really cool to see, knowing that so many people are vulnerable, so many people can receive votes, and only one person is actually going to go home. So it made things very, very interesting. It was hard to, like, there was so many different things that I felt could happen. Um, so we hit the beach right at the beginning of the episode, and it was like pretty typical. You know, Janine gets back, and she was super, super angry. And not even really angry, she was just sad. But I think that she played pretty well, but I think that she got tips on how to play well, given the situation. You know, when your bestie goes home, like, you can't get pissed at everybody. Like, that's going to lose social merit, obviously. So, because they told her not to do that, she didn't do that. And she basically went to everybody and she said, it's okay, it's just a game. I actually feel now that, you know, I have a little bit more liberty as a player. Great. That's exactly what you do when you get blindsided. Because when someone makes a move on you and they leave you out of the vote, they are extremely petrified every single time that you're going to come back and be like, what the fuck? I don't trust you. I want you out next. I can't believe it. That is what is expected from a lot of people when they make big moves and leave people outside of it. But you should have all of your avenues open in Survivor. You shouldn't, like, close any doors. I mean, you should be willing to work with anybody at any point. So if you don't want to, you'd never want to burn a bridge intentionally. So I think that Janine handled that very, very well in this episode. Um, it's great. So Janine is probably going home soon still. I just don't see her as the finale player. Um, she's having a bit of a rough time. I mean, she lost her closest ally, and I'll talk about this later, but she gave her idol to Dwight, and yeah, it's been confirmed. He went home with it. He has it as a souvenir, and Janine doesn't have an idol anymore. That sucks. That, I feel, I feel bad for Janine, absolutely. But yeah, that's what happened with that. Um, so yeah, Dwight gets voted out. Didn't even get to be on the jury. Kind of sad, you know. This is the first time in Survivor history where everybody's together. We didn't merge until this episode, but everybody's together, and two people get voted out before the merge. And you know, this has happened quite a few times where one person makes it to the merge but not the jury. You know, Jessica Johnston, um, Kelly and Worlds Apart, um, and it was super common in old school Survivor. I mean, yeah, Gretchen, you know, Jeff Varner, um, Clarence, etc. etc. So yeah, basically in the old days, that was super common, where the first merge boot wouldn't make the merge, the jury. So yeah, we kind of saw that this time, but this time two people were voted out before. That's unfortunate. I feel bad for Dwight. I don't know if I agree with that necessarily, but I guess that's just what happened with that. So Dwight goes home. My winner pick kind of sucked because he's my winner pick. You know, you want your winner pick to succeed, and he did not succeed. So yeah, he's out of the game now. So yeah, we had what else happened before the challenge? I'll talk about the challenge. So, oh yeah, we had this interesting duos thing where you had to pick your own duos, and then it was in like different compartments, which I like the compartments element to it, where you have to like earn your spot to a different part. And then at that point, battle against everybody else that's left, and then another part, and then battle, and then another part. I think that's good. Um, so yeah, we ended up having that where you had to pick your own duos. Now, I kind of liked this if it was random, but picking your own duos, I was just a little bit confused at the camaraderie of this. I mean, yeah, sure, you have to pick your own duos in order to compete in the challenge, but I was a bit surprised how, like, nobody wanted to go against the grain, because you should want to be paired with the strongest person. And yet everybody is agreeing to not be with the strongest person. I mean, maybe not enough people cared to win the challenge, so they wanted to lower the threat level by not winning the challenge. But I feel like if they did this later in the game, everybody would just be like, what the hell, I want to be with the biggest physical threat. And it would create a lot of interesting dialogue. And it would lead to, like, there just being a bunch of fights over who gets who. Doing it at this point in the game made it so maybe people didn't care as much. But I just don't understand the logic of not wanting the strongest person unless you don't really care about winning. But it's also early enough in the merge where winning immunity maybe gives you a bigger target. So maybe people just didn't care enough to go there. So I guess that's just what happened with that. They each had to pick their own duos and battle it out against everybody else, and we ended up having the duos that were made. And we had the whole moment where Noelle felt bad for Sammy. We got that whole like emotional segment. Which is, yeah, that's fine. I think that we're getting a little bit more emotionally invested in this cast. That's something that they've tried to lean more into in the 40s, which I mean I appreciate. So then we get to the final part of the challenge, and we just have Jeff narrating it, and it was just a little cringe. However, it felt so fresh. Like, we don't really get to see Jeff like trying to push these emotional segments. He'll do it in the edit where the editors would, where they just tell their story and then they air it and they show flashbacks and everything. They did that in 41, they did that in 42, and they're doing it again here in 43. But this was interesting because they did it at the challenge. So we have Gabler saying how the next minute he's playing for this and the next minute he's playing for that. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that the editors love Gabler. Jeff loves Gabler. The audience is supposed to love Gabler, and most of them do. Gabler is my favorite on this cast. It is no longer Cody. I am a huge Gabler stan until the day I die. A bit of a common take at this point, I guess you could say, but yeah, Gabler's my favorite on the cast. And he was my first boot prediction, so that happens. So Gabler ends up winning the challenge after having that whole emotional segment. And we have Owen saying he's playing for something, Cody saying he's playing for something else. Gabler, I might remember a few of them. You know, he had his uncle in the operating room, and he mentioned that, like, this minute's for that. So it started off a little bit more emotional, and, like, you feel emotionally invested in Gabler, and, like, after a while, it was just kind of humorous. But he ends up winning the challenge, and after he wins the challenge, and he's, like, this big dude, and Jeff puts the necklace around his neck, I'm just sitting there thinking, dang, Gabler's a bit of a threat now. Because I didn't think people were particularly taking him seriously. They just kind of thought, goofy dude, strategically not really there, socially introverted. So I didn't really think people saw him as that big of a threat, but I think right now people are starting to see him as a legitimate threat. So that scares me a little bit with him. I mean, he like orchestrated that Ellie boot and now he wins immunity. So his threat level's through the roof. And like, I'm just wondering how he's going to overcome this. And what's weird is with the edit, you know that he will. Like, he's making it to the final 6, and I would be surprised if he didn't make it to the final 5. But it's interesting because his threat level just seems really high right now. But maybe there's going to be other easier votes. There's going to be other people that are going to, poke the bear and, annoy people and make the wrong moves to get voted out. But it just feels like right now Gabler's threat level is so high that I don't understand how he's going to overcome this. He has to. He's making final 6 at least from the edit, right? But I just don't know how he's going to overcome it. But he has to overcome it. There's just no way that he doesn't. So I think he's gonna overcome this. So I'm happy for him. Gabler's gonna do well in this season, based on the edit that we're seeing. But I just don't understand how he's gonna overcome it. So we get right back. I didn't even keep track of everything. Like, did Noelle give the steal a vote to James? Did he, or was it somebody else? I know Janine gave the idol to Dwight, and Dwight went home with it. But that was just really confusing. Everyone was giving their stuff to different people, and I mean, the episode is tonight. I'm making this video very late. The episode is literally in like a little over 2 hours, my time. But I guess I'm just gonna sit down on the couch and just watch it and just see what happens, because I honestly don't know who has what at this point. And I know that I didn't rewatch the episode. I'm trying not to do that in these recent seasons, just so that I enjoy the rewatch a little bit more. But I don't even know who has what. I mean, at this point, like, I do know right after the challenge, there were names getting thrown out. I mean, Noel's name was thrown out pretty quickly, and then I think it was Cody who was like, "Why not Dwight?" Or maybe Jesse said that. It was very hectic. I don't entirely remember. Um, and yeah, then Ryan's name got thrown out, which based off of the edit, I would assume Ryan's probably going to go home pretty soon. Actually, I think Ryan's going to go home this episode, right? His name came up this episode. I think this episode is just going to be a little bit more of a monotone type of round where like James and Ryan's names might just get thrown out like nonchalantly. I really do think those two are going to go home, both of them, very soon. I think Ryan's actually probably going to go home tonight. Um, so yeah, we ended up having like all those names thrown out where James's name gets thrown out again. I think that people are like when they saw that his name was a contingent plan at the first vote. I think now, unfortunately for James, like James's name was thrown out for really no reason other than the fact that he was one of 6 people that was vulnerable, and he was a Coco, and based off of the whole like Vessi helping Baka situation that like bonded those two tribes. So I think that they just think at this point that Coco is easy people to peck off because of that moment. So I guess they were just like, oh, between James and Cassidy, Cassidy can go home at any time. So let's vote James. So I think that at the Ellie vote, that was the mentality. And James played it super well. He was chill. He dealt with it. He was like, okay, my name's getting thrown out for no reason. Let me get Gabler to target Ellie hardcore and hope that it catches some steam. And it worked. And James was super calm. And then his name gets thrown out again here, probably because he was a contingent the last time and people were genuinely concerned that he would be mad at people for his name being out there, and he'd shoot the blame game at them, so I don't entirely blame people for wanting James gone because of that whole Ellie round, but it kind of sucks for James because he didn't really do anything wrong. I think that he's playing fine. I mean, he's not the best player ever, but he's not doing as well as he should. His positioning isn't as good as it should be. So, I mean, it's...
Jonah?
I'm filming a video.
For what?
My YouTube channel.
Yeah, no, it's supper now, Jonah. Supper. Come do that later, please.
Nah.
Do it later. Supper's on the table.
Nah. That was hilarious. I'm gonna eat very, very soon. In Survivor, you get no food. So that's not really a concern. So James got targeted twice. He was on the block 2 votes in a row for not really doing anything particularly wrong. And oh yeah, James got the knowledge is power, which, oh my god, why did they rehide that? They rehide idols. That pissed off the fandom. And now they're rehiding advantages. Are they going to do this with every advantage? Let me rehide the extra vote again. Let the steal a vote. Oh, it was just played. Oh, it was just gone home with. Let me just rehide it. Let me just drop it in a well. I did not like this. It irked me. It felt so unnecessary. And like this episode felt so like old school, even though it really shouldn't have, until that happened. Like, just trust your cast. Like, idols are cool. The game doesn't really need a ton of advantages. I think a game with 0 advantages works perfectly fine, but throw 1 or 2 in there. It doesn't really impact much, Like, throw a steal, a vote, and a safety without power advantage into the season. Those are the only 2 advantages. And hide, like, 3, 4, 5 idols. Honestly, like, I'm okay with that. Maybe don't rehide them the entire time, but 3, 4, 5 idols is cool. They just don't trust their cast. They feel like they need this knowledge is power advantage to create drama within the game. So they didn't want to risk not implementing it when Geo, in a very boring way, went home with it. So I didn't like this at all. So, yeah, I mean, James finds it. And, yeah, by the way, I don't know, did James have the steal a vote from Noelle? I don't know. I actually have no idea who Noelle gave the steal a vote to. I don't remember, but I know she gave it away. So, yeah, James finds this, and it wasn't great. I was not happy with seeing that. Very unnecessary, but it happened. Nothing you can do about it now. So, what else? Ryan, his name came up again. I think that he had a really bad edit in that Geo round. So I think that he's someone right now I think has the least chance of winning, and this person who I think is probably going to go home in this next episode. Yeah, James, he has that knowledge is power still. And hey, like he could play. He probably knows who has what. So if I was James personally, I would take an idol now. I mean, everybody's going to know that you have it no matter when you take it. Most people probably know that he has the knowledge is power. That information probably spread pretty quickly. I mean, like at the well, they know that he took it, and he probably doesn't have a choice but to tell people. I think he already told one or two people in the edited episode that we already saw. So I mean, at this point, James has the knowledge is power, but he's an easier vote because his name has come up as much as it has, and it's really difficult to rebound from that, even if you didn't particularly do anything wrong. So, yeah, he has the knowledge is power. He should just steal an idol, because he probably knows who has what, and deal with it. And even if it's public that he has an idol, just play around it, because I think James is going to have a hard time. Yeah, he's going to have a hard time. So yeah, I wish him the best of luck. So yeah, Owen is another person I want to talk about. In the merge episode, they made him the narrator of who had what. Great look. He had a bit of a quieter episode this time around, but that happens all the time, right? The winner will have an invisible episode, the second or third merge episode. Perfectly normal. That's okay. But I think he might be in a good spot. But I also feel like they're not hyping him up as like this major character. Like Carla is getting that hype. Jesse is getting that hype. Cody is getting that hype. Gabler is getting that hype. Sammy is getting that hype. That hype. In a very subtle way, Cassidy is also getting that hype. Where I think Cassidy is your under the radar, shocking winner. I mean, Jeff did say in an interview that this season, or just in general, there's no winner's edit, which is so ludicrous. You have like I think he said Survivor doesn't really have a winner's edit, and I'm like, that's bull. Like Richard Hatch told the entire audience that he was gonna win Borneo the first episode. What? What? So that made no sense to me. That Jeff said that in an interview, but I'm starting to think maybe he's just trying to hint to us that the winner isn't expected. Like, it's not. You can't really read into the EDGIC charts to determine who your winner is. Like I think Cassidy right now is your winner because of that statement, but I would love like something just totally out of left field. Like, what if Noelle won? Like, that would be crazy. Like it's funny because based off of the edit, it could happen. It could be like this insane under the radar, crazy win. But yeah, like as of right now, though, I think Cassidy's probably your winner. But yeah, back to what I was saying about Owen. He's not getting hyped up as much as these other players, and that makes me a little bit concerned for him. Where I think 10, 9, 8, 7, maybe 6 he goes home. I think he's probably going to go home in that range. But he's had some positive content. I mean, like him being a winner wouldn't flabbergast me. But it's hard for me to back Owen win. I just don't see that. I think there's other people that are more in contention for that win. So yeah, I would wait a little bit to believe that Owen could potentially have a win, because I don't think it's particularly likely at this point in time. I'm trying to think of what else to talk about. So Janine, she's not getting a great edit. I think she's probably going to go home in the mid-merge. So yeah, she's probably going to go home in the mid-merge. She doesn't have anything now. She lost her idol. It's unfortunate. But I think that's sometimes what happens. It sucks, but what can you do? She doesn't have her idol anymore. So yeah, Janine is kind of lonely at this point. It seemed like she was bonding with Dwight. Ellie was her bestie, and now Ellie doesn't really have anybody. Now, she's not very threatening, and I actually think people know that she's alone, which could help. But yeah, I'd be concerned for her as of right now. So yeah, that's how I feel about Janine. Jesse, had a bit quieter of an episode, but he has that one really subtle confessional where he's like talking about the state of the game in a very confident way, and then he just kind of chuckles, and that's the whole thing. He's like not getting bad content at all. Like, yeah, sure, most of this cast is like getting pretty positive content, but I think I think I think Jesse is someone who I used to think was a finale player. Now I'm thinking maybe he just gets sniped close to the finale. Like, I don't know. I think final 7 he could be like this big blindside candidate. I'm not really sure. Or he could be an FTC loser. I think my belief that Jesse can win has kind of gone away at this point. I think that his edit was too perfect in the pre-merge, and then now it's just a little bit minimal. Where they're kind of showing him as this really confident individual, but his edit, something's off. So I don't think that Jesse is your winner. So I don't think Jesse's going to win this game. But yeah, time will tell. Let me talk about Carla. So Carla is someone who I think she's actually going to be the Omar of the season. I think her edit's actually going to get even more perfect as time goes on. I think she's going to start getting more content. It's going to be more interesting, and then she's going to get sniped, and then the person that is responsible for taking her out is going to win the game. We're 2 for 2 on this strategy. The modern survivor, 3 tribes of 6, beware advantages. Shot in the dark. You got to earn the merge. Some random twist within the merge. Survivor 41, 42, 43, and probably 44, all kind of similar seasons with some tweaks in the format. But I think that of what it takes to win, it's 2 for 2 in Survivor 41 and 42, and I think that's going to continue. You know, whoever is the biggest threat going into the final 6, the person that is responsible and the person that was able to stop them from making it to the end, and thus they go out at 6 or 5 or maybe 4, is the person that's going to win the game. The person that's most responsible for getting that big threat out. I think that big threat is Carla, and I think that winner, the person to take her out, will be Cassidy. Now, this is totally random, but I think that Carla is someone who we're being hyped up as someone who we're supposed to like in this season. She's supposed to be a very good player. We're not really getting an Omar on this season where it's like, oh my god, like it's just so obvious that he's your winner. Like he's getting like such an amazing edit, and then he gets like sniped in the final 6 by Marianne, and then Marianne wins. But Carla is getting a similar edit to Omar, a bit lower key. I think that like they're really like dividing the edit in a pretty good way. So I'm happy to see that. But yeah, we're not really getting an Omar in the season, but I think that Carla is going to get Omar'd, where basically she goes home at like 6 or 5 as a really big threat, and then that marks the end of her game. So that's how I feel about her. And then, okay, I talked about Gabler a little bit. Gabler's a massive threat right now. Oh my god, I want him to win so badly, and I actually think he will have some longevity. But based off the edit that we're seeing, they've clowned him in really subtle ways. They want you to like him, probably because he's going to make it far, but he's not your winner. They would give him more positive content. Even though we all love Gabler, he would be getting a less goofy edit if he was actually your winner. So he's not going to win. 5-4, he's probably going to go home, one of those two. I would actually be very surprised if he wasn't your 5th placer or fallen angel. I don't see him getting any other placement, to be honest. I actually feel very confident in saying that. So yeah, Gabler is someone who I think is going to be taken out as a huge threat to win. It's going to be the most obvious boot ever, like Ricard in 41, where he just goes home at Final 5, super obvious, or like Adam going home in Cook Islands, like a Final 5 boot that's just really obvious to the audience, to the players, just so obvious, and it's going to be sad. But I think that's what we're seeing from Gabler. Noelle is someone, like, out of like the underedited players, Noelle is the one that I could see, either getting a spike and making it far, or not really getting a spike, being kind of underedited and making it far, kind of like Heather. I don't think Noelle is a central focus on this season, but she's like the underedited person where she's not as hyped in comparison to some other people that I actually think will have some longevity. She might make it to the end. I'm not ruling it out. But I think people might just be like, she has a prosthetic limb, we can't take her to the end. So maybe she goes home at Final 4 or 7. Or I think 6 and 5 will be reserved for like big threats to go home, like Carla and Gabler. So I think that those two are going to go home at that point. And I see Noelle as like your fire-making loser, or 7th place or 8th place or 9th place. Something like that. But I think she's going to be okay for the next 2 rounds. We also might be getting a double a double at the final 10 where it's, two groups of 5 that each vote somebody out. That's very possible. I could see maybe Noel going home at that point. I don't know. So, yeah, Cody. Cody's he had that very goofy edit in the pre-merge where he's just there to have a good time. His edit has died down a little bit, but that's only because there's so many people on the island. I mean, they want to invest a little bit in the players that don't have much time left. They want to invest a little bit more in the strategic masterminds. Cody's neither. He's making it far. He is. I feel it really strongly. And he's also not a strategic mastermind. So he's someone who he's meant to make it far in the game, but he's not super necessary to give him a ton of confessionals. And that's okay. Jonathan Young in Strider 42 didn't get that many confessionals. And to be honest, I don't really particularly think that he needed a bunch of confessionals. I think that just his appearance and him doing phenomenal in challenges was enough, where they didn't particularly feel the need to give him a ton of confessionals. And I see Cody in a similar way. So I'm going to talk about Sammy, who I don't even think I've talked about in this entire 26 minutes leading up to this point. But Sammy could win. Sammy could absolutely win. It's a little bit more obvious, but I find it very interesting. This dude's not even getting targeted. I mean, they don't know that he's 19, but he is 19. And he's witty. He's good. He's got a good handle over things. I mean, you'd expect somebody at his age to not have as good of a knack for the game as he has. So I've been very impressed with him, honestly. I think that a lot of people will look at these teenagers that play, like, Julia Sokolowski or Will Wall or even Michael Yerger, or Keith Sowell or Jessica Pete, who those two actually went home really early, and kind of look at them and, like, they're either going to go home early because they're young, or they're going to make it far as kind of like naive, underestimated players that can't win even if they do get to the end. But I mean, yeah, like I think out of all the teenagers that have played, like Sammy is the teenager with the best chance ever to actually win the game. I think that we haven't seen a teenager play Survivor that has a better chance of actually winning the game since Korong Julia. Like, she's the only other teenager that's ever played where I was watching and I was like, she could have won that. I came into that season already knowing the winner when I watched it for the first time, but I was watching and I was like, Julia could have won this season. Like, she was in contention. But now I feel like Sammy is the best teenager to ever play. Now thinking about it, yeah. I forgot about Natalie Tannerelli, who she's another one too. Like, yeah, she just kind of was with Boston Rob the entire game and didn't really have a ton of individuality because he controlled everything. But I think Sammy is the best teenager to ever play Survivor. Like, the casting team, they are looking for young people. And they cast Sammy. And he, isn't acting his age at all. Like, he did that one TikTok dance at that one challenge, but just socially, he's doing well. For any age. Not his age, for any age. And he's showing that age really is just a number. You can do well in the game, regardless of if you have a good, decent knack for the game, you got a shot. And Sammy's proving that, and he's doing great. I am impressed with him. Yeah. It's great. So, yeah, Sammy, I see him as an FTC loser right now, but maybe he wins. We'll see. I don't know. And yeah, next we have Cassidy, who I think is your winner right now. Especially with my winner pick just getting voted out. Like, I'm not going to be all prideful and say, oh, my winner pick's going to win. My winner pick's going to win. I was kind of seeing in the edit that Dwight wasn't going to win. But now that Dwight is actually gone, I can be a little bit more open about what I think is going to happen. And I think right now, Cassidy is your winner. I think she is someone who is going to get underestimated. Someone who, if you watch the first episode, she said how she was going to lay low early on and then, come out later, and like it would be a shocking win. It wouldn't really translate to what we're seeing, but there's a lot of time left. I mean, it's final 11. Cassidy's edit will probably hit a spike. It'll be pretty good around final 8, and then it'll spike final 7 up. That's really what I see happening. It's a very, very subtle, minute edit, and it's not a winner's edit that you typically see, but honestly, Erica's wasn't too different. This is reminding me a lot of Erica right now, and that's why I think, even with the Edgic charts, I think Cassidy is your winner. She's not playing a game right now that you watch it and you're like, winner, winner, winner. But I mean, like, her threat level is low. It just what I mean by saying that is that she has to get to the end with 2 people that she can actually beat. And I think that she's going to have a hard time pulling that off, but there's a chance. There's a chance. So I think right now, like Cassidy, based off of the edit that we're seeing, best chance of winning right now. Okay, so that's my thoughts on this episode and all the players and their stance. And like right now, like if I had to like pick a boot order in my head, I would say 11 Ryan, 10 James, 9 Owen. That might be surprising. 8 Janine, 7 Jesse, 6 Carla, 5 Gabler, 4 Noel, 3 Cody, question mark, 2 Sammy, 1 Cassidy. That's what I'm thinking right now. I think maybe Sammy will make some mistakes, and then maybe Cassidy's game will improve. And we kind of saw that with the Marianne and Mike situation. I kind of see Sammy as the Mike and Cassidy as the Marianne. Where like going into the final 11, you're like, oh, 100%. Sammy's the bigger threat than Cassidy. In Survivor 42, Mike is the bigger threat than Marianne, of course. But I think Cassidy's going to have a spike. I think that Sammy might start to get a little bit naive, and then he's going to start making some mistakes. So I think that's what I see right now, because the edit, I'm talking about the edit, makes me think that Cassidy's your winner for some reason. And then Sammy is the next likely to win. I actually think like the 3 people that I have in final 3, I also think are the 3 most likely to win. I think, yeah, like Cassidy, Sammy, and Cody. I think those are your 3 most likely to win right now. So I guess we're going to just have to see what happens. I'm looking forward to this episode. It could play out in a lot of different ways. So yeah, with that being said, I'm JPB Productions. See you guys.